There are certainly elements from my audience feedback in my short film, especially from my questionnaire. I tried to include as much as possible from my questionnaire in my short film. From the first question I got lots of responses that form the basis of all the clumsy incidents I wanted to happen in the short film. A good example is when my character, Matilda Maladroit, walks into the classroom and falls straight over a chair, because that was actually suggested by her because she thought it would be fun to do. The second question was not very helpful because I got a lot of ridiculous responses such as ouch and clumsy land, which wouldn't fit the film very well or the character. I also included a few elements from the last question, such as the twist at the end of the film, and I included lots of aspects of comedy to it. My ancillary tasks encourage people to watch my short film because they both use similar techniques that mean that my short film and ancillary tasks represent each other and use cross-media fertilisation. My film poster especially links to it and has elements that immediately connect it with the short film. An example of this is the title on the poster, which is taken from the short film, as is the image of the two people falling over above the production company. With the magazine review, I decided to write a descriptive summary of the short film to allow readers to understand the logic of the film better, and I also wrote about bits about the actors and the foundations of my ideas for the film, so it really gives an insight to the reader about how it was done and why. One feature-length film I found that is similar to my short film is Enchanted, which was directed by Kevin Lima in 2007, which has a storyline about a Disney fairy tale princess who lives in a cartoon world, and she's sent to our world by an evil queen, and she becomes human, and it follows her journey as she's trying to go home, but she falls in love instead. And it's similar to mine because in my short film it's based around turnaround magic, where overnight she makes a wish and it comes true. And mine's also based on a female character as the main character, which seems to be a typical convention of the genre, which is comedy, sort of teenage fantasy. I also had a look at the film poster for Enchanted to see if there are any major similarities, and I found that my short film poster was fairly similar. For example, the background in my poster is black and white, and in the Enchanted poster it is in blue and white, sort of grey-scaley colours. They both then have the main character in colour in the foreground, which attracts attention to them, and it defines them immediately as the main characters. I use lots of technologies from starting this short film coursework piece. I did find it hard to grasp last year, but it's helped me to develop my skills to this project. During the research of my short film, I used the internet to find out about short film via articles and reviews, and I also looked at some local cinema magazines which I scanned into the Macs to analyse. During our planning stage, I used the method of blogging again to document all the stages and processes I went through. And when I was writing the blogs, I did find it a bit hard to decide the context of what to put in the post, but I tried to include only what I needed to and the main points. However, I did find it easier this year to keep blogging all the time because I was much more used to it. My construction stage was when I really started to use media technologies. Firstly, I used still cameras to take photos of my storyboard, to then put into iMovie to create an animatic. I also needed to record the voiceovers for the animatic, so I had to use a voice recorder. Then once my animatic was completed, I started to use video cameras to film my footage and a tripod to keep the camera steady. The footage I then imported into Final Cut Express on the Macs, ready to start editing. I also had to create a score for my production using GarageBand, and whilst I did this I also carried on blogging throughout the whole process. The Apple Macs are much better compared to a normal computer for this kind of thing because of the software on them. Final Cut was very good for the editing stage because of the various different tools and effects available to use to me. It made it much easier to create what I wanted while sticking to my storyboard. For example, in mine I used a couple of transitions, one where the clock ripples and also when she goes to bed and makes the wish. For the evaluation, I did it in the style of a director's commentary. I used the video camera, obviously, to film interviews, and I used Final Cut Express, put it all together. And I think it's a really clever way to evaluate instead of doing an essay, because you can talk freely, and it's also a good experience to have done it in the form of a director's commentary.